Men are good. Indeed, men are good, as are you. And today we're going to talk about circumcision. Follow the money. Now, why follow the money? That doesn't make any sense. Why follow the money? Well, because the money, I think, in the United States holds circumcision in place, keeps it going. And I think you're going to be surprised at all the different places where money ends up having to do with circumcision. So let's see where we go from here. Let's start with a little levity. Your son has a condition called normal penis, but we can fix it for the price of $350 and your total unwillingness to question why he was born that way. Oh man, isn't it the truth? I mean, they're fixing a normal penis. There's nothing wrong with it. They're going to snap it right off. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Well, it all starts in the hospitals, right? Let's say it's $350 per procedure. Okay. And you know how many circumcisions there are a year in the U.S.? About 1 million. So that business is what? That's about $350 million a year just for the operation. Oh boy, ring-a-ding-ding indeed. That's just the operation. It's $350 million a year. People don't want to give that up. But then it gets worse. Somehow these foreskins get out into the public domain, but you would think the hospitals are doing it. They're not donating them. You'd think they were selling them, but it's very difficult to find a hospital who's saying we're selling foreskins. And I think a part of that is because it's against the law to sell human organs, right? And the skin is an organ. So in some ways, it's against the law to do this. But they do sell them, I think. And the estimate, one guy said that he thought they sold it for about $35 a piece, which seems really low. And you'll see why we're thinking that's really low when we get to the later part of things. But even if it's $35 a piece, that's $35 million there again. Chalk it up. Here we go. Now, this is a map of circumcision around the world, and the green countries are where circumcision is more prevalent, with the darker green being more prevalent, and the blue countries being where it's less prevalent, and the darker blue being where it's less prevalent. Okay? So you can see the U.S. and Africa are pretty much standing alone in being places where circumcision is prevalent. Why would that be? Why could that possibly be? That doesn't make a bit of sense. Oh boy. You think of hospitals as being places where, you got to go and have some wonderful procedure done. It's going to be sterile and people are going to care about you. They're going to, see you in whoopsie. They're going to see you in loving sorts of ways and they're going to take care of you. And right? What you don't think about is going there and finding a torture rack. Look at that. Look at that torture rack. That's got these, let's have a closer look at that. It's got these little things where it straps the infant down, holds the infant's little arms, holds the infant's little legs, holds him in place so he can't move. He's got to struggle, but he can't move. And the doctor, whoever, chops off a part of his penis. Now, how barbaric is that? How totally barbaric is that? Totally normal kid, and we're chopping off a part of their genitals. Imagine just for a second that we had those torture racks for little baby girls, and we strapped them down, and we cut off their clitoral hoods, which is very similar to the foreskin in some ways. Not as big, but it's very similar. We cut them off, right? How long would people stand for that? It would be abusive. It would be seen as should be against the law, right? But with little boys, it's not seen as against the law at all. No one really cares. In fact, the arguments the doctors give to promote circumcision are really anemic. They talk about urinary tract infections. I don't know about you, but as a man and a boy, I never had a urinary tract infection. And my son, I don't think he ever had a urinary tract infection. Now, I know girls do and women do, But saying it's going to make him less likely to get urinary tract infections, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But the next excuse is even worse. They say, oh, it will keep him from getting cancer of the penis. That's a terrible thing, cancer of the penis. And it is a terrible thing. But that's not really a good reason to cut someone's penis off. That doesn't make any sense at all. Why doesn't it make sense? Penile cancer is relatively rare globally, with an annual incidence of less than one case per 100,000 persons. Huh. Okay, so maybe it's going to make it so that it's one chance in 150,000 people. BFD. Do you know what the chances of getting struck by lightning are? They're about 1 in 100,000. Maybe, I think it's 106,000 or something like that. But come on. That's crazy. Now, make matters worse. I mean, think about it. Here you've got this little boy, sometimes not anesthetized. He's just a week old. They strap him in. They sometimes, without anesthesia, they cut off a part of his penis. So what does that do? That means this first experience, his first sexual experience, is one where he is being abused and tortured without his consent. Without his consent. All of a sudden, some big blob out of no place comes this smelly thing and hurts him so bad that he's in pain for days, right? That's his first sexual experience. How about that? I'd call that sexual abuse. Wouldn't you? Oh, boy. And then we expect him later in life to deal with consent issues. Oh, God. His first sexual experience is one of getting sliced and tortured. And now, without his consent, and now we think, oh, well, he should deal with consent issues. Now, think about it. If it was a little girl who had had their genitals mutilated, like they mutilate little boys' genitals, if it was a little girl who had those genitals mutilated, do you think they'd be saying, oh, she needs to deal with consent. What's wrong with her? Why can't she deal with consent? No, they'd be going, oh, poor dear. She needs time to process this. This must be hard for her because she was abused as a child. Well, all those boys were abused as a child. In fact, there's some evidence now that says that circumcision creates PTSD. Think about that one. Think about it. That means that if that's true, and I think it probably is, that means that most of the men in our culture are suffering from PTSD from childhood, and they don't even know it. They have no idea. They did this research one time on yoga and children, and they found that this certain group of boys couldn't do these postures where they had to lay flat on the floor, stomach down. And then they found out every one of those boys was circumcised. The boys who weren't circumcised did the exercises just fine. So circumcision impacts us all the way down the road. Anyway, let's go on a little farther and see where we go here. Okay, so we've got the hospitals doing 1 million operations a year, making about $350 million, and then selling the foreskins, making probably more than $35 million. But where does it go from there? What happens after that? Who do they sell this stuff to? Well, have a look at this. Lifeline. This company is selling you for $533. You too can buy foreskins. Oh, God. Yeah. Human dermal fibroblasts neonatal. That means foreskin. And they sell it 500,000 cells or more. And they sell it for about $533. Yeah. That's just one. Here's another one. A human dermal fibroblast neonatal. That means foreskins. Thermo Fisher Scientific. Huh? Where did they get these foreskins? We don't know where they got them, but probably they got them from hospitals. Now, some of the people say, oh, these are all Korean foreskins from Korean babies. And you know what? I don't care if they're from Koreans or Martians or whatever. Chopping off a foreskin's wrong, and using it in this kind of thing is wrong too. And selling it and making a lot of money on it, there's something wrong with that. Here's another Lonzo, human dermal fibroblast, neonatal. In other words, little baby boys' foreskins. This one's $570. You can see it because it's behind me. $570. Let's put me back. There he goes. Anyway, so these people are selling it for a lot of money. And think about how much money that is. So the foreskins are sold to these companies. These companies then turn it into a solution of some sort. And then they sell it again for $500 for a little teeny bit. And guess what? They sell it for all kinds of things. One of the things they're selling it for is this skin, where they're making skin in the laboratory. I call it lab skin. And they make it out of cow fat and foreskins, if you can believe that. And that's what they do. And then the uses of these lab skins is really amazing. You know, that it speeds up the healing in what do they call it, diabetic ulcers, and in wounds that have a hard time healing. I mean, it does really good things, but let's find some other cells to use other than baby foreskins. But that's what they're doing with it. And these companies then sell this. They buy this foreskins from these people who probably bought them from the hospital. They buy the foreskins, and then they create the skin, you know. Oh, boy. Let's see. They create the skin, and then what do? Here it is. Companies are making human skin in labs to curb human testing products. Yeah, and here's what they say. They say, L'Oreal's Episkin is tempering the public outcry over animal testing paths plagued the cosmetics industry for decades. In other words, they're doing this to keep from having to test animals. But read the next part. The raw materials for Epiderm is human skin cells retrieved from surgical waste following cosmetic surgeries and circumcisions. Okay, so wait a minute. They're not going to be unkind to animals. They're not going to shave off the rabbit's fur and then test on the skin with that. They're going to cut off baby penises instead. What kind of trade-off is that? To me, that's not moral. That's immoral. And they've been doing this for a while. Well, you hear later from one of the L'Oreal experts that they've been doing it for 30 years. So they make this skin and they sell the skin and they use it for they replace the animal testing with using this fake skin, which is made out of foreskin. Oh boy. And it's crazy, crazy, crazy. And it turns out that one foreskin can make a large amount of skin. So someone said someplace, and I'm not sure this is true or not, but someone said that one foreskin could make as much as a football field's worth of fake skin. So, let's see, initial investment, $35 from the foreskin, then $535 if you're going to buy it from the secondary people, and then they turn it into big, big money after that. Gracious goodness. Let's see here. Yeah, so here's one of the companies that does this, Organogenesis. It's up to $500 million company with 1,000 employees, blah, 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 blah. They make a lot of money selling this stuff called Apligraph. Apligraph is one of the types of this lab skin that we're talking about. And the Apligraph, have a look at this. Apligraph says, under aseptic conditions, using neonatal foreskin-derived blah, 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 blah. So they're telling you, we're making our lab skin out of foreskins. So, I mean, can you believe this? It's really, really hard to believe, but there it is. Now, how much do these people charge for these fake skins? Man, it's really hard to find out exactly how much they charge for it, but I found a couple of things that tell you what the physician's reimbursement would be and what the charge for the Medicare would be and this and that. And the physicians get reimbursed like $30 per square centimeter. Teeny tiny, right? $30. And I think that, for, what does it say, for 44 square centimeters, it's $1,300. And 44 square centimeters is what is about that by that. So, okay, wait a minute. One foreskin can make a football field's worth of this stuff, and they're selling it for a huge amount of money. And insurances are paying for all of this. You better believe it. So what do you got? you got more money piled onto more money, piled onto more money. Great. And then, of course, what do they use the foreskins for? They put it into cosmetics. Everybody remembers the Oprah stuff, where she outed the Skins Medica people, for all that they, well, she didn't out them. She actually was a proponent of Skins Medica. Oh, this is wonderful cream for your face. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Then they found out, Skins Medica uses foreskins. And I don't think Oprah ever apologized for that. Maybe she did. Who knows? But look at that, $295 for one little old bottle. That's 1 ounce. Yeah, so what do we got again? We got more money in there, boys and girls. Oh, God. There's the ingredients for that one. Human fibroblast conditioned media. Translated means foreskin. Then we have Sandra Bullock. Gracious. Sandra Bullock talks about getting the penis facial that's taking over Hollywood, and it's as weird as it sounds. Penis facial is taking over Hollywood. She knows they're using foreskins, infant foreskins, in this whole procedure. And she thinks it's wonderful, just wonderful. And all of Hollywood is being taken over by this idea. Oh, let's run and get a facial with foreskins. La, 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 la. That's crazy. Would Sandra Bullock... Sandra, let me ask you a question. If they were using clitoral hoods from infant girls in that facial, would you take that? The answer is no. She wouldn't even dream about it. She would be protesting. She'd have her marching with her sign saying, down with clitoral hood removal, right? But somehow with boys, it's okay. Of course, we got gynocentrism here. Gynocentrism says the little girls need to be protected. Little boys, we can cut their penises and use the circumcised foreskins for whatever we want, and that would be okay. So, the general culture at large just doesn't really think much about boys' mutilation. They don't think much about the pain that boys go through. I mean, think about it. The circumcisions are sometimes without anesthesia. I mean, that's just gross. That's crazy. There's L'Oreal. Look at all the little things they got there. And L'Oreal's just one company. There's a lot of companies under L'Oreal that uses all the stuff for the testing and stuff. Who is it? It's Ralph Lauren and Valentino and those and blah, blah, blah. All these companies are involved. And there she is. Let's hear from L'Oreal. Let's hear what she has to say about her lab testing.
L'Oreal does not test any of its products on animals. We are for a world without animal testing.
We don't use any testing on animals. We're for a world with no animal testing. But we're also for a world where it's okay to test on little babies' foreskins. Oh, L'Oreal, you're in trouble. Here she is again.
We have been using a non-animal way of evaluating the safety of our products. To do the test, we developed a reconstructed skin called Episkin, and we have been using it for the past 30 years. We have been very happy to make this technology available to others.
They've been using it for 30 years, so they've been using foreskins for 30 years, and we're very happy to make this available to others. What does that tell you? That tells you that they're using the skin not only for their own cosmetic testing, but to sell to make a profit. What does that tell you? More and more money. For 30 years, they've probably been selling this to other cosmetic companies to be able to test and test and test. Money upon money upon money. I mean, it's hard to believe, But let's summarize things here. First things, the operation itself is $350 million, right? Then the foreskin sales are probably at least $35 million, maybe more than that. And if you go into the secondary sales, who knows how much those are? I mean, it's a huge amount of money. And then the sale of skin, the lab skin that they make, that sale is dependent upon foreskins also, right? And the cosmetic testing is also using foreskins. And then put it into the cosmetics. Can you see all the different ways that circumcision is used in industries? Billions upon billions of dollars. The cosmetic industry is a $64 billion industry, and some of that $64 billion has to do with circumcisions and foreskin. So do you see what we're up against? I mean, we're up against not only a culture that is gynocentric, that doesn't really give a crap about boys. We're up against a culture that is basically locked into making money off of this operation. So what can we do about this? I'll tell you what we can do about it. Spread this video around, show it to people, and tell people circumcision is wrong. It's just pure wrong. There's something wrong with that. Why don't we have compassion for little baby boys? Why do we cut them when we don't need to? Bring that message out, and bring out the message that it's connected with money. And people need to be shamed for this. They need to be told that what they're doing is immoral. This is immoral and wrong. And on that note, let's keep in mind that men are good, as are you. Come see me on Patreon. We're having a good time there. We meet once a week on Zoom, and we're thinking about starting another meeting at another time. So come and join us, and it's a good red-pilled men group, and it's a good thing. We'll see you there. Men are good. Men are good, as are you.